like this.
Hello again, racing fans. Welcome to Behind the Lines here at Hoosier Park. With me tonight, Vicky Rouch. I am track announcer Steve Cross, and tonight we'll be talking to Vicky. Gonna pick your brain a little bit, Vicky, and tell us a little bit about yourself and what brings you to Hoosier Park. Nice to have you on board.
Thank you, and I really like Hoosier Park. I've been involved in harness racing all my life, and this is pretty close to home. I'm from Logansport, Indiana.
Okay.
And I just loved harness racing from the day I saw my first race.
When was that?
Oh, boy. I guess I started out, I rode my bicycle to the Cass County Fairgrounds, and they were having horse races, and from then on I just kept going there. I went up to Merle Myers, and I told him I would clean his stalls if he let me brush his horses, and he said okay, and that's pretty much how I got into the business.
That's how you got started back at the you said the Cass County?
Cass County Fairgrounds,
Cass County Fairgrounds in Logansport. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you've been a Hoosier all your life.
Yeah,
okay.
And I went with some friends. I met some friends, Nancy Felker and her family. They raced Indiana County Fairs, and her mom let us sleep in sleeping bags in the shed rows, even at Anderson, at the Anderson Free Fair. I remember sleeping. It was fun. It was like camping out in the barn.
So back to the Indiana County Fairs. How does harness racing differ at the fairs now compared to back then? What was back then? What approximately what year would that have been that you got started?
That was in the late 60s.
Late 60s. Okay. So how do the fairs differ in Indiana now from back in the late 60s?
We stayed for several days.
Stayed for several days.
Yeah, we would have a 2-year-old pacer and a 3-year-old trotter, and so we would stay for 3 days. Race the trotter one day, and race the pacer the next day. And
so when you shipped in and stayed. There was no running back and forth to grab another horse tomorrow night.
Oh, sometimes someone would. Somebody else would go get the other horse, but we usually stayed the whole time, and it was fun, and some of my other friends had jobs at the B&K root beer stand. I went to the county fairs for 3 days, so that was what I did in high school. But eventually it went on, and the horses got better, and we went to Audubon Raceway,
which was where?
That's Henderson, Kentucky.
Henderson, Kentucky.
And I got a job with Scrap Campbell, Glen Air Farm, and I raced there for a few years. And this is in the summer because I always went to school in the winter. But
so this was a summer. This was your summer job.
My summer job.
Okay.
Yeah. And then we raced in Illinois, and when I was at Springfield, that's when I got to see what the Grand Circuit was all about, and I was old enough to realize the caliber of horses that was on the Grand Circuit, and that I had to go with the Grand Circuit.
So what is, for those of you that may not know, out in a simulcast land, what is the Grand Circuit? What was the Grand Circuit? What is the Grand Circuit?
The Grand Circuit is a group of races that these horses are eligible to. It's the big time.
Big time.
It's the big dance, and just like the Dan Patch, it's the big dance. And the Grand Circuit is a circuit of races that goes from one track to another. And when I got a job with Joe O'Brien, and I had a 3-year-old trotting filly, and every week I was pretty much in a different state. We'd race. She raced on Friday nights. Saturday mornings, all the 3-year-old trotting fillies would load up in the big semis.
From the different stables?
Yeah, all the stables. So I got to know people from the John Simpson stable and the Houghton stable, and then we'd go from Pennsylvania, and then we'd go to Buffalo, New York, or then we'd go to Scioto Downs or Indianapolis or DuQuoin or Springfield
What
or
was your
Lexington.
favorite? What was your favorite stop on the Grand Circuit?
Well, Indianapolis.
Indianapolis?
Was pretty,
Well, it was
pretty
home, of
nice
course.
because my family could come and visit me, and that was nice. But Lexington was just incredible. It was beautiful and historic, and
So it's kind of like we always equate it to perhaps maybe the PGA Tour on the golf tour. The very best are on a circuit, go from one place to the next, and so that's kind of how the Grand Circuit worked back then. How do you see that differ today?
I think like with the horses that came in for the Dan Patch, they came in the night before, and they're here now, and they'll race, and then they'll probably head out the next day, where we stayed a whole week.
Week.
It was important then for the horse to train on the track before the race.
Okay.
So so my filly would train 3 or 4 days before her race, just to get used to the track,
Sure.
the right shoeing and things like that.
So it was more of an event, a weekly event. You went and you stayed and participated, whereas maybe now in today's Grand Circuit, it's kind of an in and out thing, and you're into race and back home again the very next day. So you say you worked for Joe O'Brien.
I did. I wrote him a letter and told him that I knew a little bit about standardbreds, and he said, meet me at Scioto Downs, and that's where I got to have the trotting filly.
This is a matter of writing a letter.
I wrote him a letter. Yeah.
How old were you at that time? Was this still a summer job, or were you graduated by then?
It was still a summer job, but I was in college. I went to Purdue.
Okay, one Purdue graduate, Boilermaker.
Yeah.
All right, very good. So you worked for Joe O'Brien. Who else did you rub elbows with? Who else did you see? Who were the mainstays? Who were the big names? Who were the stars on the Grand Circuit back then?
Well, the stars, were Joe O'Brien, Bill Houghton, Stanley Dancer, of course the drivers, and they were the trainers too. They were the big names, but the people that were important to me was the blacksmith, John Robson. He's probably one of the best blacksmiths on the Grand Circuit.
He traveled with the circuit?
He traveled with us.
Really?
So now he worked for Houghton mainly, but we would try to get him to shoe our horses too. And he went everywhere with us. He would be at Springfield. He'd set up his shop there, and Indianapolis and DuQuoin, and he traveled with us.
So then, did the trainer drivers, Billy Houghton, for example, did he travel with you as well, stay the week, or did he go back home to the home base and then maybe fly in the day of or the night before
That's
the big race?
That's what Joe did. I don't know exactly what Billy did, but
that's what Joe did.
Joe would show up the day of the race usually.
Okay.
And then of course, like when I was at Sportsman's Park, Stan Bayless was our trainer there.
The Stan Bayless?
The Stan Bayless.
No
and
kidding.
he was my boss.
Stan was your boss. How good of a boss was he?
Is he the big guy?
No, he's not a big guy. He acts like he's really mean, but he's a teddy bear. He's a great guy. Good boss.
He was really good, and he took good care of the horses, and he was a good driver.
So he was
a very good
second trainer. Was he be considered as the second trainer then for Joe O'Brien? Is that how that worked?
Usually Joe didn't even have to go there if Stan was there.
Stan was the man.
But Joe was a really good Stan was a really good driver of the Pacers.
Right.
Pacing Colts.
Colts. Stanley had, I'm not sure at what track, but at one time held was the leading driver at some of the tracks over the course of the years.
Hollywood Park, probably.
So obviously he was a good driver.
Yeah, he was at Hollywood Park, and he was at Sportsman's Park. And I was happy to see when he showed up here.
Sure thing.
So.
An impressionable person. Who would have been maybe one impressionable person on the Grand Circuit that you were attracted to, that you thought this person has it all together, is a good person for the sport?
Oh, you mean like as far as a groom?
Anyone.
Charles Van Knobloch, everyone knows him as Stickman.
Stickman.
He took care of Tarport Hap.
Really?
And Tarport Hap was an outstanding mare. She raced against the Colts. She was just outstanding. And several of the grooms that worked for Sonny Graham and Delvin Miller, I thought they really, Teddy Guerin, he took care of Meadow Bright, who I had to race against, and I couldn't beat her, and he was a very good groom. He races here. He has a stable here, and some of those guys, of course, I knew Charlie Coleman, who worked for John Simpson, and I mean, you know, he was one of the older gentlemen that were a famous name in the business as far as grooms go.
Sure. So you were able to rub elbows with the likes of Delvin Miller and Stanley Dancer and the like. That's pretty impressive. As far as a horse, say, standout horse that really sticks out on your mind of the Grand Circuit. Favorite horse? Not necessarily your horse.
Yeah,
it may have been
like
your
my
horse.
horse.
Brett Hanover, for instance, did you see Brett race?
No, but I did know Thurman Downing. He owned Brett Hanover, and he owned several horses in our stable. You know, I'm a Lula was a wonderful trotting mare that I thought was great. She was in our stable, and she went on to be a great mare.
Sure.
Like I said, Tarport Hap was probably one of the all-time greats, and just watching the pacing mares compete and the trotting mares compete, I was always excited about that.
So leads me to my next question. Did you prefer the trotters or the trotters or the pacers?
At that time, since I had a trotter, I was all about the trotters,
Sure.
and we kind of all traveled together. I saw Noble Rogue and some of those great trotters race. Ideal, the Gazo, the French trotter, I saw him race. Some of those horses were incredible.
So then also, these were all 2- and 3-year-olds. Any aged races on the Grand Circuit back in the day?
Yeah, there were. Well, I saw Nero. He was in our stable,
Really?
and yeah, he was in our stable. So I got to see him a lot.
Good.
And
What do you miss most about the Grand Circuit?
the traveling was fun.
Sure.
I got to do a lot of fun things. I went to Niagara Falls. I went to New York City. I still travel. Well, I've been traveling in the past few years because I raced at the Meadowlands and at Pocono.
Okay.
So I did get to go to New York and the museum. I got to see the Harness Horse Museum.
Okay. So what brought you, other than being a Hoosier, what brought you back to Hoosier Park? I know you raced now we're talking it down the road years later when you had a few horses of your own. Mm-hmm. You raced in Chicago. Mm-hmm. What brought you to Hoosier Park?
Well, I fell in love with my husband.
That's always good.
And I met him at Purdue, and he's a farmer in northern Indiana.
Great.
And so I got married and had 2 boys, and so I stayed home for a few years. I worked for Merle Myers in Logansport, and then I started catch paddocking at Balmoral because it was close.
What does that mean? Catch paddocking.
Okay, a catch paddock is what I'm doing tonight. It's a job where you just go the night of the race and you take care of 1 or 2. Some people can take care of 2. I usually just take care of 1. You take care of a horse. You get them ready. You they warm up a trip. You get the bike on them and the driver, and you have them all ready to race.
So you're not necessarily in the bike. You don't necessarily go the warm-up mile.
The trainer usually warms up the horse, and then you give them a bath, cool them off so they're not all sweaty and everything.
Okay. So you're down in the trenches. You're doing the dirty work.
I'm in the trenches every night. I usually catch paddock a horse. It's lucrative.
How often during the course of the week? Say this week. How many paddocks will you be?
I've had 5 paddocks. It's a lucrative way of I don't really work for anyone. I have my own horse, so to make money, I catch paddocks.
How do you secure those catch paddocks on a nightly basis? Do you approach someone? Do they approach you?
They usually call me or text me.
That's kind of handy, isn't it?
Yeah,
the texting
texting
thing.
is great. I work for 4 or 5 different stables, and they can count on me. I work for Dave White and
Good
Bobby
guy.
Reeser
Good guy.
and Bobby Brower and Kevin Thomas. He comes in with some trotters.
Sure.
And
So those are kind of your clients, and you're
yeah.
kind of their client as well. They know they can depend on you week in
That's
and week
right.
out. And I'm sure you do a great job.
it's a good way to make cash.
Sure, absolutely. So now you said you have your own horse back in barn 7?
7,
7A?
I have Star City Hero.
Star City Hero. What's your daily routine? We did a little B-roll back here, back in the barn yesterday. This must be the hero horse.
Where is it? Okay. I usually get up early because I like to get him out early before it's.
What's early in your book?
I get up at 5:30.
That is early.
Yeah. Well, it's nice out. It's
I think you only
beautiful.
get up. I thought you only get up to milk the cows at 5:30.
Not me. Well,
Anyways, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
We have a backtrack that's really nice, and I usually take him out there. So I clean his stall and then get him ready, and I go out to the backtrack. He likes to relax and jog along nice.
Sure.
And
So now you're doing this yourself. You're jogging the horse.
I jog him myself,
Okay.
and I do everything with him. I warm him up and get him ready to race. But anyway, so
He likes carrots.
He likes carrots, yeah.
He's not spoiled, is he?
Yeah, he's really spoiled.
How old is the horse?
He's 9 years old.
9
I
years old.
raised him from a baby.
Really?
Yeah. Harry Bonoblock had a brood mare that wasn't getting along with the rest of the horses, and so he gave me his half of a Drex Scooter brood mare. And his son, Charles Bonoblock, owned the other half. And
Okay.
so the two of us, he said, "This is your horse. You pick the stallion." And I had the farm. So
He had the horse, you had the farm, you made a deal.
That's right. And so I bred her to Western Hero. And I got Star City Hero.
Good.
And he was a really good 2-year-old. And I got to go to New York with him and Pocono, and he's just been a really good horse his whole life. So.
Very good. So you're in the backstretch day in and day out, and this backstretch thing is kind of like its own little city back there.
It is. It's a wonderful city. There's a lot of grooms. There's people from all over the world. That's what's exciting about it. A lot of other countries.
What are we looking at here?
I don't know where we are.
So there is
okay.
a tack shop at the back.
Oh, that's right. That's the tack shop that you can get all kinds of liniments and stuff like that there, and
This is everybody's favorite, the track kitchen.
oh, the track kitchen. Yeah, they have good chicken roll-ups.
Chicken roll-ups.
That's the lounge. That's nice and cool in there. Everybody takes naps on the couches in there.
Sure. Now this is the paddock
the
area. This is
paddock.
what you'll see on a nightly basis. This is the backtrack you were talking about. This is something new that was just added last year.
It's wonderful.
You see a lot of people using the backtrack.
A lot of people use it. It's kept my horse sound. I'm convinced.
How does that track differ? How does that track surface differ from the track surface out here?
I think this track has a limestone base,
Okay.
and to keep it firm.
Sure.
And that track is just all dirt, and so
more
it's very
sandy, a little
soft.
deeper?
You don't hear a hoof print at all, and it's really nice back there.
So, what are some of the things that you don't? I know you enjoy your job. Anything that you don't really care about? Maybe the long hours, the late evenings.
There's a lot of long hours. I'll tell you, the grooms that work here work really hard. It's getting up in the morning and late at night, and they have families, and it's tough on everybody, and racing every single day. I mean, except Mondays, but most tracks race like 3 days a week or something like that. So
we're one of the few tracks
grueling.
that goes 5 nights a week.
Of course, the money's good here, and the track does a lot for us. We have the medical trailer, which is really wonderful for everybody, and keeps us all healthy. And we have a pastor that people can go to church services on Monday. They try to take care of us, and the dorm is wonderful. It's a beautiful dorm. I call it the Hoosier Hilton. But
so the dorm. Do most tracks have a dorm area?
They usually have dorms. They're not as nice as this, I don't think.
So you think that they do it well on the backstretch as far as the living
nice.
conditions?
It's pretty nice.
Good. Track kitchen. You said chicken. I'll have to try that.
Chicken roll-ups. Yeah.
Okay.
They have,
and the track kitchen is open every day.
Egg sandwiches are really
egg
good.
Sandwiches, of course. Kitchen open every day.
Yes, every day, and
morning to night.
Yeah, I think Monday it's only open till noon, but yeah,
Okay.
you'll have to eat over there.
I'll have to try that. Well, very good. Listen, Vicki, it's been nice chatting to you. I'd love to go back to years past. I'm a big American history buff, and of course, horse racing is part of American history. And unfortunately, it may not be as big of a business as what it was when you started back in the late '60s. But it's still horse racing. And one thing that I have learned: it doesn't matter where you go in the horse racing industry. There's a lot of good people.
That's right. There are a lot of good people here. It's like a family. It's just like my brothers and sisters. We all take care of each other. I've been there for them. I've ridden in the ambulance, to the hospital, and I've written obituaries, and they've been published in the Hoofbeats magazine. So it's a family, definitely a family.
So for anyone out there that might be listening for the first time to the track, and if they have any interest, how does one go about, in today's world, getting a job as a groom? You wrote the letter. That's still recommendable? Maybe texting today.
Yeah.
But what kind of qualifications do I have to be a groom?
Well, if you want us to start at the bottom, you can clean stalls. But,
good place to start.
But I would go to the farms. There's several farms around
Training
here.
centers.
Training centers. Ernie Gaskin's farm. That's where I would want to start out. But there's Pace Setter. There's a lot of good farms right here and around the state.
Sure.
You start out just basically cleaning stalls or washing equipment. And I think we need people to, and actually even on our backstretch, we have a lot of young people learning. I think you have to be 16, but and you can do it for just a summer job if you want, but because we always need help. But I would start out at the farms and just try to learn the basics. And if you know anything about horses, that helps. You have to really love horses.
Sure,
too.
you do.
That's the first thing.
And you have to be okay with working hard, because it
hard work.
It can be very hard work.
Hard
Absolutely,
work.
long hours, like you mentioned. Okay, well, Vicki, we have to run. We're 16 minutes now for the first race. You've got a paddock in what race?
I'm in the 9th race.
9th race paddocking what horse? Or should I say paddocking for who? Maybe that's easier.
For Tom Harmer.
Tom Harmer. Okay, very good. Well, best of luck. I hope things go well for you. And again, it's been nice chatting. Nice to have you on board. And maybe we'll see each other back in the track kitchen sometime.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
There and leads it by 2.5. Trump Casino along the inside is second. Hi-Ho Silver Heels third. Here's Dennis Beach Boy. Here's The Wire. 1:49 and 4. The stretch they come on the outside. Here comes Royal Flush Hanover. Royal Flush Hanover, and now they come to the wire, it will be Royal Flush Hanover.
Gesture toying with the field, down to the wire. Here's the time, 1:48.1. That is a new track record here at Hoosier Park. What a phenomenal effort by the world champion, Sharp Gesture. The Doer and Sam Bridger, the new leader. As they come to the 16th pole, it's both the Doer to the inside of Fred and Ginger. Late pace here from Rocket Cab, but it's both the Doer winning the 20th edition of the dance. Bitter's Edge, Sweet Lou on the front. Bitter's Edge is coming to him with every stride. Sweet Lou, Bitter's Edge together at the wire at 1:47.2. It's Sweet Lou.
Harness handicappers, this one's for you. TrackMaster Harness Pro is the most unique and powerful handicapping tool dedicated to harness racing on the market today. It's a combination of all the features found in sophisticated handicapping software, all conveniently presented as a web-based, all-in-one handicapping tool. TrackMaster Harness Pro has these exclusive features: top performers, graphs, user-created power ratings, sortable statistics, and PDF race programs included. TrackMaster Harness Pro for the serious player.
At Hoosier Park Racing,